Hey guys, tonight we journey to a place where silence isn't peaceful, it's protective, where the sound of your own footsteps on gravel feels like a scream in church. Tonight we're unraveling the harrowing and sinister case of Ellen Lucas. You know, just your standard story, isolated seaside village, beloved school teacher, disappears, and the entire town casually forgets she ever existed. No big deal. Except you probably won't survive this one without questioning your own memory. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive in the village of Gracewick at dusk, the salt-thick air sticking to your skin. It's the kind of place that's so still, it feels like the wind is holding its breath. The buildings are hunched over with age roofs, sagging like tired shoulders, and the lamplights give off a glow that's less welcoming and more don't ask questions. You're here because Ellen Lucas is missing. And not just skipped town missing, more like she evaporated. Her shoes were found by the hearth door, locked from the inside, kettle still warm, and Ellen gone. No struggle, no note, no drama. Ellen wasn't the type to just vanish. You read about her before arriving. Top of her class at university, came to Gracewick to teach primary school kids and stay close to the sea she adored. Locals described her as sunlight in corduroy, which might be the most British compliment ever. You find her cottage perched on a small cliff, staring out at the ocean like it's waiting for something to come back. Inside, everything is neat. Too neat. The kind of tidy that doesn't happen naturally but is arranged like someone set the stage for an alibi. Then you notice it, a plate of toast, one bite taken perfectly buttered. No crumbs, not a single one. It's unsettling in the same way mannequins are. They resemble life, but something's missing. The window's latch is bolted from the inside. The front door was locked with the key still in the bowl on the table. The bathroom mirror is slightly fogged, as if someone had just showered, but there are no wet towels, no footprints. You check the floor and notice the oddest thing, a trail of tiny white granules. Salt, leading from the back door to the fireplace. And that fireplace cold. No ashes, just a scorched pattern that looks vaguely like the spiral of a seashell. Now you're getting twitchy, right? You should be. Because even the local constable, a man so relaxed he probably apologizes to his teacup, looked nervous when you asked about Ellen. He scratched his neck, mumbled something about her sort always drifting off, then promptly changed the subject to crab festivals. Crab. Later that night, as you walk back toward the inn, a boy passes you on a bike. He's maybe 8 hair sticking out from under his cap. He slows down and says, "She's in the sea now," before pedaling off like that's just something you say to strangers. No context, no explanation. You sleep poorly. The mattress has that someone else's memory smell, and outside your window, the wind hums a single low note that never rises or falls. At 3:17 a.m. you wake up choking on your own breath. It feels like you inhaled seawater, but your mouth is dry. Historians still argue whether the folklore of coastal sacrifice was ever truly practiced in Britain. Some say the stories of offering the sea a soul were metaphorical warnings dressed as myth. Others believe villages like Gracewick may have followed older, darker traditions that slipped beneath the surface of history. One thing's for sure, the town doesn't want you here. You feel it in the way the bartender doesn't pour unless you ask twice, in the way no one ever says Ellen's name even when you do, in how every clock in town chimes the hour 3 minutes late, as if trying to hold time back just a little longer. There's a painting in the inn's lounge of the coastline. You squint and realize the tiny figure on the rocks, barely visible, is a woman in a red coat. Ellen had one just like it. Here's a quirky fact to chew on while you avoid blinking at the shadows. During the early 1800s, some British towns would ring their church bells backwards at sunset, not for celebration, but to ward off sea spirits. The custom faded with the rise of rationality. Gracewick, however, still does it. You walk to the chapel on the hill to confirm it. Sure enough, the bells ring backward at sundown. And the sound is wrong. Not haunting, not eerie, just hollow, like it's echoing into a space that isn't there. By the end of your second day, you're convinced this isn't just a missing person case. It's a rupture, a place where something slipped through and Ellen Lucas either fell in or got pulled. So you return to her cottage one more time. This time you kneel, press your ear to the floorboards. Nothing. Then, tap tap. A faint, deliberate knock from underneath. You pry up the floor, dust, cobwebs, and then a leather-bound journal. And now the story really begins. You flip through the pages of Ellen's journal like it's a forbidden spell book. The leather is cracked but supple. The pages tinged with sea dampness, as though it's absorbed the very mist curling around Gracewick. Her handwriting is meticulous, looped schoolteacher neat, but grows less coherent the deeper you go. At first it's all lesson plans, plant sketches, seaside observations. There's a charming entry about a crab she named Florence, and an overly detailed rating of local scones. But then things turn. Slowly. Like the tide creeping up your legs while you're distracted by the sunset. April 9th. The children sing in rounds now, even when I haven't asked them to. I caught Elsie staring at the window, humming the same 4 notes over and over. Her mouth wasn't moving. April 13th. The lighthouse doesn't cast shadows anymore. Just light. Empty light. April 17th. I heard the bells last night, but not from the chapel. These came from below. She starts referencing someone or something named Mirren. It's unclear at first. At one point she writes, Mirren was at the market today. No one else saw her. When I asked about her, they looked past me like I'd spoken in another language. Then I dreamt of the sea swallowing the sun. Mirren stood at the edge. She said my name like she'd been waiting to. The pages begin to include sketches. Eerie, childlike scrawls that somehow still drip with meaning. A spiral repeated obsessively. A shape that looks like a human figure, but with 2 long limbs and no face. A coastline, but the cliffs are bleeding ink. Then comes the entry dated the night before she vanished. It's getting louder. The humming. The quiet isn't empty anymore, it's full. I found the salt again by the fireplace. I didn't leave it there. I keep dreaming of the tide coming in through the walls. I can't stay here, but I don't know where else I'm allowed to go. You sit back, heart thudding. The cottage's silence seems to press in like it knows what you just read. You take the journal with you, careful to restore the floorboard. Though let's be honest, if anything's watching you, it already knows. Historians still argue whether journals like these should be considered valid historical sources. Some claim they're too subjective, prone to hallucination or fabrication. Others argue the very emotion within them captures truth in a way official records never could. Either way, Ellen's words cling to your ribs like seaweed. You take the journal to the one place that might hold answers, the village archive. It's tucked behind the post office, which is conveniently only open on Wednesdays, or when the sea permits, whatever that means. You bribe the ancient clerk with a ginger biscuit and find yourself in a room full of dusty ledgers and cabinets that haven't been opened since flared trousers were fashionable. There, in a file, marked tenancy. MISC. 1850-2000. You find something jarring. Ellen's lease agreement, dated 1978. But Ellen was born in 1987. You double-check the handwriting. It's hers. Even the signature matches the one in the journal. You blink, sit back, and do what any sane person would reread it 5 times while mumbling, nope, nope, nope. And then comes the kicker. A letter. Folded inside the lease. Addressed to Mirren, dated 1961. In the same looping script. You suddenly remember that quirky little tidbit from folklore class, Coastal Time Folds. Superstition, sure, but some seafaring cultures believed time moved in strange ways near the water, that if you lingered too long on a certain dock, you'd meet yourself coming back from a journey you hadn't taken yet. The letter reads, Mirren. The bells are back. It's not safe past sunset. I see them in the mirrors now. They ask me things in silence. You said I'd forget, but I remember more each day. I saw my own handwriting on a paper I haven't written yet. E. The clerk notices your expression. Says that letter's been in there longer than I've worked here, and I've worked here since the Thatcher years. He chuckles. Mirren. That's an old Grayswick name. No one uses it anymore. Bad luck. You ask around town, but no one admits to knowing a Mirren, not even the oldest folks. You show them the handwriting, the name. Most squint politely. A few go pale and suddenly have errands. Back at the cottage, you notice something new. A letter in the mailbox. Crisp, fresh, postmarked 3 days ago. Addressed to Mirren. Inside a single sheet of paper, you're getting too close. Stop digging. Or take her place. No signature. You check the postmark. No location, just the Grayswick seal and anchor wrapped in kelp. You look it up later, it was last officially used in 1922. By now, your rational brain is tap dancing out the back door. You decide to make a list. That's what smart people do in horror stories, right? Lists. Ellen Lucas, born 1987, arrived 2021, but lease dated 1978. Her handwriting appears in documents from 1961, wrote letters to someone named Mirren, went missing, vanished inside a locked house. Mirren. Possibly not a person, possibly a role, a title. Repeated presence in multiple decades. Nobody admits to knowing her. Might be watching. It all smells like folklore, doesn't it? And that's when the strangest thing happens. You go to the village cafe, open the journal to show a local. Except, the journal isn't in your bag anymore. Your bag's been zipped the entire time. You look back toward the cliffside cottage. Its chimney is smoking, and you never lit a fire. You don't run exactly, but your steps toward Ellen's cottage carry that quiet urgency of someone pretending they're not running from something, just walking very quickly toward clarity. The chimney smokes a thin, lazy ribbon, twisting into the overcast sky like it knows you're watching. You left the house locked. No one else has the key. You were sure of that, weren't you? The door creaks open without resistance. Inside, the temperature has shifted. Warmer now. The faint smell of brine and singed rosemary hovers in the air. On the mantel, her journal, placed neatly, facing you, like an offering. You pick it up, flip to the most recent page, and it's blank. The last dozen pages have been torn out, ripped cleanly like someone didn't want you reading what came next. But here's the kicker. The page numbers continue as if nothing's missing. Page 108, followed by 109, even though there's clearly a missing chunk. So unless this journal's gaslighting you, reality is fraying faster than your nerves. You take the book to the hearth. Cold ashes now rest where there were none before. You kneel, sift through them, and your fingers brush something smooth. You pull it out. It's a key, old iron and crusted with salt. Etched into the bow is one word, Mirren. You don't know where the key belongs, but you're suddenly very aware that someone thinks you're ready to find out. Now let's pivot, because you deserve a breather before your brain melts like supermarket brie. Let's talk about 17th century British secret societies. Fun, right? There's an obscure rumor among fringe historians that certain coastal villages maintained tide-bound orders, local collectives sworn to protect their land from time spill. Not officially documented, of course, but the whispers are there. Ancient pacts, selective memory loss, seasonal disappearances. One case from 1683 references the Mirren Watch, believed to be a group of 5 who held a ceremonial post meant to bind what the bell unloosed. The phrase makes no sense unless you've heard the bells in Grayswick. Speaking of which, you wake up at 3:17 a.m. again. Third night in a row. This time, something's different. The humming is louder, yes, but it's not outside. It's under the bed. You do not look. You're brave, not reckless. Instead, you wait. Breath tight. Muscles locked, and then it stops suddenly, like someone pressed pause on the world. When you finally peek, there's nothing. But the floor, covered in tiny salt circles. Again. The next morning you follow the only clue you have, the key. You wander the village discreetly, trying it in every ancient padlock you find, tool sheds, rusted gates, a suspicious number of locked well covers. No luck. Until you reach the edge of the woods. They're half swallowed by ivy is a shed you hadn't noticed before. Tiny stone barely standing. The key slides in, turns with a reluctant click. Inside a spiral staircase leading down, because of course it does. The descent is tight. Dank. Smells like mold and forgotten things. At the bottom you reach a stone chamber with nothing but an old desk and on it letters, dozens, all addressed to Mirren. They span a century, postmarked from everywhere, some from places that don't exist anymore. One is dated June 4th, 1942, another March 11th, 2030. You're reading a time capsule curated by something that doesn't believe in time. You open a letter marked with a red wax seal and anchor again, but this time with an eye in the middle. Inside, to the next who finds this. The role of Mirren cannot be taught. It must be remembered. You are not the first. You will not be the last. She lives only when spoken of and disappears when forgotten. Do not speak her name at sunset. So naturally you read it aloud. You don't mean to. It just slips out, like a memory that isn't yours. And instantly you feel it. A shiver not of cold but of pressure, like the air itself is leaning in, listening. When you climb back into the daylight, Gracewick looks different. Subtle things. The clouds hang lower. The street signs have shifted, one is in Latin. A cat watches you from a rooftop with unsettling stillness. You go to the cafe. No one recognizes you. Not the owner who served you tea yesterday. Not the old woman who nodded at you in church. You say Ellen Lucas, and they just stare. You say Mirren, and 3 people immediately leave. Historians still argue whether mass memory shifts ever occurred in isolated communities. Some cite suggestive evidence in Siberian and Welsh folklore, accounts of villagers who collectively forgot a person overnight with only a few holdouts remaining. But no hard proof, just stories. Like yours. The spiral appears again that night, carved into your bathroom mirror. Tiny like it was scratched by a pin. You try to wipe it away, but it stays, embedded in the glass, watching. Then the humming returns, but this time it harmonizes. You hear your name. You don't sleep that night. Not really. You lay there in the narrow in-bed sheets pulled to your chin, eyes locked on the spiral carved into the mirror, because turning away feels like an invitation. Every time you blink, you swear the edges pulse, just slightly. At dawn you pack. Not your things you've stopped pretending this is a normal trip. You pack Ellen's journal, the Mirren letters and the salt you swept off your floor last night. Then you head to the cliffs. The sea's a dull green today, slapping the rocks with the sluggish insistence of something annoyed to be awake. You whisper her name Ellen Lucas just once, like an experiment. No wind, no birds, nothing. You say Mirren. A gull drops from the sky mid-flight. Alrighty then. You decide it's time to find the people who do remember. Not the cafe folk, not the innkeeper who keeps forgetting your room number, but the ones who lock their doors at sunset and look at you with too much recognition in their eyes. Your first stop is a woman named Ada, age 93, lives near the marsh. She answers before you knock. Took you long enough, she says. Not unkindly. They said you'd come. You're halfway through explaining when she waves her hand. I remember Ellen. Don't need convincing. Smart girl. Smelled like rosemary and storm water. But she asked too many questions. You blink. And Mirren, Ada's face tightens. Don't say the name. Not in daylight. You sit in her parlor surrounded by porcelain owls and the scent of boiled cabbage. She pours tea so strong it could polish brass. Then she leans in. There've been 4 before you, she says. All drawn here. All curious. They vanish. But not all at once. They fade. Gracewick forgets them, one by one. Even the graves change. You ask who the others were. She pulls out a box and places 5 photos on the table. Old sepia-toned. 4 faces. 1 empty frame. The 4th face is Ellen, and the 2nd looks exactly like Ellen, but dated 1903. Historians still argue Ada mutters whether she's a person or a role, a memory that comes wearing different skins. You ask if that means Ellen isn't dead. She's not dead, Ada says. She's remembered. And that's worse. The second person you find is Thomas. Early 60s reclusive, wears a fishing vest and lives in a lighthouse that hasn't functioned since 1971. He invites you in without a word, pours you 2 fingers of whiskey and opens a drawer. Inside a tape recorder, he presses play. A woman's voice crackles through clear and urgent. If anyone finds this, please remember me. They say I have to forget who I was to survive. But I don't want to. I don't want to become her. Then static. Thomas watches you. That's Ellen. 2 nights before she disappeared. You ask if she was alone. He hesitates. Not when she started speaking. Then he shows you the window. A small rock ledge outside, just wide enough to stand on. She stood there at night, talking to the sea. Then one night she just stopped talking back. The third is Mr. Webb, the retired headmaster. He remembers Ellen vividly. Her lesson plans, her handwriting, her odd questions about time and rituals and bell patterns. He also remembers something else, something nobody else mentions. She could sing, he says, but not like the others. The others, he nods. The children who vanish. Every few decades. No one records it anymore. No one dares. But it always begins with a voice. Then they hum. Then they disappear. You realize Ellen wasn't just curious. She was resisting something. You remember a quirky historical tidbit you once read? In certain Celtic traditions, the act of singing was believed to anchor memory. A person who stopped singing could be unwritten, especially if they lived near water. Sound familiar? Later that night you find the 4th person, Harriet the florist. She never speaks of Ellen, but she hands you something, wrapped in wax paper. A ribbon. Red. Salt stiffened. You unfold it. Inside is a lock of dark hair, tied in a spiral. She doesn't say a word, just stares at you, then closes the door. Back at the inn, your door is ajar. You didn't leave it that way. You step inside. The journal is on the bed again. New entry. Your handwriting. I must not forget. I must not forget. I must not forget. The same line over and over. Then at the bottom, one more line. Tomorrow I sing. You stare. You don't remember writing it. Morning comes slowly. You don't so much wake up as resurface, like someone hauled you from deep water. Your throat is dry. Your limbs are heavy. For a moment you don't even remember where you are until the spiral on the window pane jogs your memory like a slap to the face. The journal is still there. The entry's still in your handwriting. You trace your fingers over the ink. It's fresh, but you didn't write it. Right. You whisper it out loud. Tomorrow I sing. A seagull immediately hits your window, just smacks right into the glass, and flops away like an ominous pillow fight casualty. Time to leave, but not Gracewick. No, you're too far in now. And besides, there's one last place Ellen was seen, the chapel. The locals don't talk about it. It's not even listed on any map. But Ada gave you directions scribbled on the back of a gas bill. Past the tide marker, follow the black fence. Don't look at the statues. Solid advice, you do exactly none of that. You walk past the rusted tide marker around noon. Follow the black iron fence that somehow seems taller the longer you look at it. And of course you look at the statues, because you're human, and they're wrong. Not just worn or weathered wrong. Their eyes are too deep. Their mouths open just enough to look like they're mid-whisper. And every statue is looking just slightly away from the path, like they're waiting for you to notice what's behind you. You don't look behind you. You reach the chapel. It's mostly ruin now, devoured by ivy and indifference. Stained glass broken, roof sagging like an apology. The door creaks open with a sigh that sounds a bit too much like your name. Inside it's cool and shadowed. The pews have collapsed into piles of damp wood, but the altar remains intact, and behind it, painted across the back wall in faded gold leaf, is a spiral. Again. Below it a plaque reads, "To those who remember, hush." You walk forward. The air feels thicker here, like syrup. You swear the dust is moving in slow motion. You notice carvings in the stone beneath your feet. Names, dozens of them. You find hers, Ellen Lucas. Then Ellen Lucas, 1902. Then E. Lucas, 1831. Your stomach drops. This isn't a chapel. It's a registry. You sit, because what else do you do when time turns to soup and history folds like origami? Let's add a mainstream fact here just to ground you. In Victorian England, some coastal towns kept unofficial records of the taken individuals believed to have been claimed by the sea or other world. These names were never recorded in parish death records. Instead, they were etched onto chapel floors, often in symbols or anagrams. Historians still argue whether this practice was folkloric or a real, parallel form of community record-keeping. You step back, count the names. 23, most with the last name Lucas. Then something shifts. You hear it, humming, soft, childlike, off-key, coming from beneath the chapel. You don't want to follow it, so you do. You find a rusted iron grate in the floor near the altar. It's been covered with a plank, but you pry it up. A ladder descends into the dark. You climb down. It's damp, narrow, and smells like forgotten pages. But the humming grows clearer. More voices, layered, harmonizing, like a lullaby sung by ghosts. You reach the bottom. A room, no bigger than a pantry. Candles flicker without flame, and on the far wall, a mirror. Just one. You step closer and see your reflection. Except, it isn't quite you. The figure in the mirror wears your face, your clothes, but it hums. You don't. Its eyes are open, a little too wide. Its mouth moves too smoothly. It reaches toward you, and your hand lifts without permission. You yank yourself back. The mirror fogs instantly. Writing appears on the surface. You remember too much. Then, sing or forget. You climb back to the chapel in a rush. The air is different now, charged. Like something is waiting, watching. You run your fingers over the spiral again. Whisper Ellen's name. The humming stops. Everything stops. Then 3 deep, echoing chimes. But not from the chapel. From the old clock tower. You sprint. As you leave, one of the statues is smiling. And now you know why no one talks about the choir. The Grayswick Children's Choir. A local group in the 1890s known for their eerie harmonies and perfect pitch. The entire choir vanished one October evening after practice. Parents found only shoes. No note. No signs of struggle. The chapel was shut down soon after. No official reason. Just dangerous dampness. Sure. And get this, the choir leader's name. Mirren Alden. Which means maybe Mirren isn't just a title. Maybe she's the conductor. And maybe she's waiting for her next soloist. The clock tower stands like a sentinel at the edge of the village, taller than anything else in Grayswick, casting long shadows that seem to stretch just a little too far. You've walked past it before, every tourist does. But you've never really looked at it. Never noticed how its hands never show the same time twice. Today the face reads letter. That's not a time. You step through the rusted gate vines curling around iron like veins around bone. The door at the base is wide open as though expecting you. And above you, 3 long, echoing chimes fade into silence. Inside, the air is thick with dust and time. You take the spiral stairs up. Naturally. Because everything in this cursed town spirals. Spirals up, spirals down, spirals into your thoughts. The staircase is impossibly tall. You climb far longer than the height of the tower should allow. Each step creaks underfoot like it remembers who came before you. Ellen, the others. At last you reach the bell chamber. It's circular, of course it is. The great bronze bell looms in the center, bound by ropes that seem far too new for a tower abandoned decades ago. And scrawled across the interior walls in frantic looping handwriting, I must not forget, I must not forget, I must not forget. You see your own handwriting again, the same line from the journal. Only this time there's a second message, scratched into the wood of the window frame, as though someone gouged it with fingernails. She hears better when it's quiet. Suddenly the silence hits you like a fist. No birds, no wind, no distant waves. You're in the eye of something. A hush so absolute you hear your heart beat, and then another one, not yours, coming from the other side of the bell. You step around it slowly, and there she is. Ellen, standing, but wrong. Her back is to you. Hair longer than you remember. Clothes the same, but stiff with salt. She hums, but it's that same 4-note phrase from the journal. You say her name. Nothing. You reach out. She turns. It's not Ellen. It's the woman from the 1903 photo. Same face, same voice, same eyes, except these are empty. Like someone turned off the lights inside. And she smiles. You're early, she says. You stammer. Ask who she is. I'm the rehearsal, she says. You're the performance. Then she's gone. Not disappeared. Unremembered. You blink, and the chamber's empty. The bell rope swings slightly as if just released. You descend, and something descends with you. Historians still argue whether the phenomenon known as mirrored memory, where multiple unrelated individuals claim the same identity in the same location across generations, has a scientific basis. Some blame shared trauma, others cite group delusions, or even quantum echoes. But in Grayswick, it's not theory. It's tradition. Outside, the village is still, but changed. The pub sign now reads The Mirren Arms. You're sure it used to be the Salty Gull. Your innkeeper introduces herself as Mirren. Swears she always has. The photo on your room's nightstand. You smiling arm around Ellen, as if you'd always lived here. You rush to the mirror. Your reflection hums, then stops, looks back. You sang, it says. You back away. Clutch the journal. Try to remember what was real. You flip to the first page blank. The ink has faded completely. You only remember one name, Mirren. Yours. You're Mirren. The town greets you now with familiarity. Smiles. Nods. Good morning, Miss Mirren. Back from the tower, were you? They've slotted you in like a puzzle piece that always existed. You're home, apparently, but something gnaws at you. You write Ellen's name on a scrap of paper. Hide it in your coat. A tether. That night, the chapel bell rings. It's never supposed to ring. You go. Compelled. Inside, a new name is carved into the floor. Ellen Lucas Witness. You run your hand over it. You try to speak her name, but nothing comes out. You've forgotten how it sounds, and then you hear it clear melodic rising from beneath the chapel. A voice, singing. Not Ellen's, yours, but you're not singing. Are you? You leave the chapel in a daze. You don't go back to the inn. You wander until your legs stop working, until you collapse at the tide pools just below the cliffs. The sea laps at the rocks, the rhythm steady, patient. The air is warm, salty still. And someone stands beside you. Tall, thin, face obscured by a deep hood. You ask finally, who is Mirren? The figure kneels, whispers, whoever remembers her last. And then they walk into the sea and vanish. You wake up with salt in your mouth. Not figuratively actual salt crusted on your lips like you'd been kissing the tide. The tide, for what it's worth, is nowhere near you. You're lying on the floor of Ellen's cottage, alone. At first, you're not sure how you got here. The last thing you remember is the hooded figure walking into the sea. The memory hangs like mist, real but slippery, already thinning. But when you sit up, your coat falls open, and a folded scrap of paper tumbles out. Ellen's name. Still there. You exhale. She's not gone. Not completely. Not yet. The journal is back on the hearth. You've stopped wondering how it moves. That's just Grayswick physics now. You flip through it, blank, 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 and then suddenly one page filled. Just 3 words, she remembers still. That she is you. For now. You step outside. Grayswick hums with quiet activity. A boy chases a ball near the docks. An old man smokes a pipe that smells like regret and fish. But there's a change. People greet you differently now. Their smiles are not wider exactly, just less afraid. You've been accepted, integrated. You've become one of the quiet ones. You spend the afternoon retracing Ellen's final days. You visit the school where she taught. The classroom is still there, though no one seems to use it anymore. Tiny desks, tiny chairs. On the blackboard, faint chalk lines spell out part of a music scale, E, G, B, D. The notes of the melody she kept humming. You hum them softly. Nothing happens. Then again, maybe something does. Because when you turn around, there's a child standing in the doorway. A girl, long dark hair, red ribbon. She says nothing. You blink and she's gone. You check your phone because sure, technology still exists. Barely. You find a forgotten recording Ellen made sent to the headmaster days before she vanished. You play it. Her voice is brittle but steady. I don't know what's happening anymore. The days loop. People forget. I'm afraid if I stop writing, I'll forget too. They want me to become her. I think I already am. You pause the recording, then rewind. She didn't say her. Not exactly. She said Mirren. Only you hear it. You try to leave Grayswick. Really you do. You pack your bag, grab your journal, even get as far as the road that curves past the cliff. But the sign is gone. The road never ends. It loops back every time, no matter how far you walk. You ask a local if there's another road out. They blink. Out of where? You stop asking. That night, something new happens. A knock at the door. You open it to find a woman. Pale, rain-soaked, shivering. She clutches a letter. Handwritten. In your handwriting. But you've never met her. And you didn't write it. The letter begins, to the one who hears the hum before it begins. You invite her in, make tea, offer her a towel. She stares at the spiral drawn on your kitchen wall and says, "They said I'd find Mirren here." You nod slowly. And in that moment you understand your role. You're the threshold, not the curse. The memory. You help her. Like someone helped you. Show her the chapel, the mirror, the letters. She follows, listens, questions. She writes down everything. You warn her not to say the name after sunset. She forgets. They always do. She disappears on the third night. Not dramatically. No screams, no flickering lights. Just gone. Her coat remains. Her journal. But her name vanishes from every note she ever wrote. You can't remember her face. But a new entry appears in your journal. Her handwriting. She welcomed me. But I stayed too long. Let's pause to mention one historical fringe tidbit. In 1897, a travelling folklorist named Edmund Call is said to have visited a Cornish town called Treilith, where locals insisted he was the fifth return of the Bell Watcher. Call documented names he couldn't remember, writing songs no one else heard, and dreams of standing in a bell tower with salt in his eyes. His final entry, "I was not the first. I am not the last." He was never seen again. Back in your cottage, you find a name carved into the windowsill. Yours, but your name's not Mirren, right? Except no one calls you anything else now. Even your reflection hums when you ask. You flip to the last page of the journal. A sentence appears, scrawled as if by trembling hands. You may still choose. Choose what? You ask aloud. The wind answers with silence. Then the clock tower chimes, 13 times, and the humming begins again. But this time it's not distant. It's coming from your mouth. You cover your mouth instinctively, like that could stop it. The humming pours out of you anyway. Soft, melodic, uninvited. The same 4 notes. E, G, B, D, the scale Ellen scrawled on the chalkboard. The melody etched into the bones of Grayswick itself. You try to stop, clamp your lips shut, but the sound doesn't come from your throat anymore. It's in you, like breath, like heartbeat. You stumble to the sink and splash water on your face. The humming pauses. You look up. Your reflection doesn't. Your reflection smiles, then lifts one hand, your hand, and taps 3 times on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. You back away slowly. The mirror fogs from the inside, and in that fog a message writes itself. You are the vessel now. You run into the street. Past the shuttered post office, the chapel, the cafe. No one notices you. Or they pretend not to. A couple sips tea like they haven't aged since you arrived. A toddler claps along to a song you can't hear. You reach the school, break in through the back. The halls are dusty but untouched. You find the music room. On the wall, a faded class photo. Ellen stands at the edge, smile just a touch strained. You lean in closer. The girl next to her identical. Same hair, same ribbon, same eyes. You flip the photo over. Grayswick Choir, 1903. Mirren assistant conductor. Your skin goes cold. The roles keep shifting. The names recycled like breath, like the tide. Ellen Mirren, E. Lucas M. Alden. It doesn't matter who you were, only who remembers you. Back in the chapel, the names on the floor have changed again. One stands out in fresh etching, your own name. Underneath, observer. Not witness, not conductor. Observer. You whisper, "What am I supposed to see?" A voice answers from behind you. You already saw it. You turn. It's Ellen. Not the Ellen you remember. This one looks ancient. Not in age, but in weight. Like she's carried too many years that don't belong to her. "You weren't supposed to follow me," she says softly. "But I hoped you would." You ask where she's been. "I've been here. Always here. Just not remembered." She touches the spiral on the wall. This is the lock, and the key. If too many forget, I disappear. If too many remember. She returns. You ask who she is. Ellen doesn't answer, but her eyes flick to the altar. A figure stands there now, not cloaked, not hidden. Mirren. The original, or maybe just the next one. She's wearing Ellen's face, but not quite. Too perfect, too symmetrical. The version memory creates after it's been polished clean by time and grief. I gave them songs, Mirren says. That's all. And they kept singing. What else were they supposed to do? You step between them. You took her voice. Mirren tilts her head. She gave it. Everyone gives something. A voice. A name. A memory. You clench your fists. I want to end it. You can't, she says. But you can choose who remembers next. And just like that, Ellen is fading. You see it, her form stuttering like an old film reel. You yell her name. Nothing. You reach into your coat, yank out the paper scrap. The one with her name. You read it aloud. The world shudders. Ellen reappears. Whole. Solid. Mirren hisses. You've figured it out. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about memory. If no one remembers Ellen, she ceases. If no one forgets Mirren, she endures. So you make a decision. You will remember Ellen, and you will become forgotten. That night you return to the cottage. You open the journal. You write it all down. Every detail. Every lie. Every truth. And on the last page you write, if you find this, remember her name. Ellen Lucas. And if you must forget someone, forget me. You place the journal under the floorboards, just as she once did. The next morning you are not in the mirror. Your voice doesn't echo when you speak. The cafe staff serve you without eye contact. Your handwriting fades from every note you've left around town. But the name Ellen Lucas, it appears freshly carved in the school desk on the chapel floor in the inn's guest book. She's safe now. She's remembered. But you're becoming her, Mirren, and you realize this isn't a curse. It's a cycle, and someone must always carry the silence. You no longer sleep, at least not like before. Now it's more like drifting, floating just beneath the surface of thought, where dreams bleed into memory, and memory loses its name. When you close your eyes, you hear the sea. Always the sea. Not crashing waves or peaceful lull. No, what you hear now is its breathing. It's alive, and it remembers you. Each morning you wake in a place that is almost but not quite your cottage. The door's always ajar. The tea is always warm, and the journal is never where you left it. You've started finding notes in your handwriting written to yourself. One says, don't speak unless spoken to. Another, she is listening. And the newest, begin teaching soon. That last one chills you. Because the school reopened. Just reopened. No notice, no explanation. Just one morning, bells rang and children filed in like they'd never stopped coming. And the teacher, you don't remember applying, don't remember being hired. But there you are, chalk in hand, spiral drawn on the blackboard behind you. The children are quiet. Too quiet. They don't talk at recess. They don't play. They hum. The same 4 notes. You try to teach math. Reading, geography. But the lessons always shift. You'll begin a history lecture and find you're drawing shipwrecks. You'll assign spelling words and they all write Mirren. You erase the word and it appears again. And again. As though the chalk remembers better than you do. You ask one little boy what his name is. He blinks. Ellen, he says. Then corrects himself. No, sorry. I don't remember. You start keeping records. Observing. Writing down names, changes in behavior, shifts in time. One student is aging backward. Another never seems to cast a shadow. You mention it to the headmaster only to discover the headmaster is you. In the photo on the wall. In the signature on the welcome letter. You're the one who founded the school in 1899. Historians still argue whether time-bleed phenomena can occur in naturally isolated geographic pockets. Places where geology, magnetism, and myth converge. The most infamous example is a village in the Scottish Highlands, where residents reported seeing people in clothing from the future, only to later find their own descendants among the descriptions. Fringe science calls this convergent memory fields. You call it Gracewick. One afternoon, the girl with the red ribbon returns. She walks into your classroom without a word and sits in the back. Her eyes never leave you. You dismiss the class, but she stays. You ask her name. She answers with your own. Then you've taken her place. You chose. You feel your pulse quicken. Ellen. She's dreaming, the girl says. Somewhere soft. But she'll wake up if you let her. You whisper, I want her to wake up. The girl tilts her head, then stops singing. That night, you sit at the piano in the chapel. The same one from Ellen's journal, the one she said played itself. You press a key. The sound is off. Slowed. Like someone's pressing it through water. Then you notice the strings aren't strings. They're hair. Dark, fine human hair, braided into the mechanics. You step back, heart pounding. A voice hums behind you. You turn. It's Ellen, but her face flickers. Not just age, but era. One blink she's a flapper from the 20s. Next, a wartime nurse. A teacher. A child. A woman at sea. I remember now, she says. And I'm so tired of being remembered. She reaches for your hand. I can take your place, she offers. You hesitate. This is the choice Mirren spoke of. To be remembered, or to disappear. You shake your head. Ellen nods, smiling. Then I'll wait. She vanishes again. But not into nothing. Into someone else. The next morning, a new teacher welcomes the class. You don't know her name. She doesn't know yours. But you nod at each other across the hallway like a baton is being passed without ceremony. That night, you climb the clock tower. The bell is already swinging. You don't remember pulling the rope. Your mouth hums the song you didn't choose. You feel your name evaporating syllable by syllable. And the journal waits on the windowsill. A blank page. Just one word scratched into the wood below it. Observer. You sit. You write. Because this is how remembering begins. By now, writing is the only thing that feels real. You cling to it like driftwood in a storm pen, moving even when you don't fully understand the words. The spiral appears in your margins now, uninvited like an echo that's learned to spell. You catch yourself drawing it absent-mindedly between the lines in place of punctuation. But the spiral isn't just symbol anymore. It's a map. It leads you places. Or maybe leads them to you. You test this theory one night. Trace the spiral from center to edge on a sheet of paper. The very next day, a door appears behind the chapel. One that hadn't been there yesterday. It's painted red and smells faintly of rosemary. You open it. Stone stairs, always stairs. You descend. You're used to descending now. The chamber below is round, shallow, carved with thousands of names. You run your fingers over them. Lucas, Alden, Mirren, Call, Webb. But there's no Ellen. No you. Not yet. In the center, a wooden box. Inside, a voice recorder. You press play. Ellen's voice crackles to life again, older now, steadier. I've stopped trying to leave. Maybe this is what it means to be remembered, not saved, but stored. She laughs quietly. I used to think I was the story, but I'm just the shape it makes. Then silence, followed by humming. You're humming. You drop the recorder and flee. Back at your cottage, the fireplace is lit. You didn't light it. Sitting by the hearth is the girl with the red ribbon. She's drawing. Spirals, of course, but also faces. Yours, Ellen's, the students, all in charcoal. You ask, who are you? She doesn't answer, just hands you a single word scrawled in thick black lines. Archive. You ask again, firmer this time. Are you Mirren? She cocks her head. Do you think Mirren is a name? You don't. Not anymore. You think it's a role, like lighthouse keeper, or conductor, or shadow. That night, you don't sleep. You sit by the sea instead, watching the tide roll in with lazy menace. You hum. Not because you want to, but because the silence demands a soundtrack. A man joins you on the rocks. You don't see where he comes from. He sits, offers you a boiled sweet. You look tired, he says. They always do. You ask who he is. He smiles. The last one. Before you. You recognize his eyes from the 1978 lease papers. The signature E. Lucas. Not Ellen. Elias. So it's not always women. He nods at your thoughts. Names change. People change. The tide doesn't. You ask why no one stops it. He shrugs. Because forgetting is easier. And remembering is dangerous. He stands. Brushes salt from his coat. Tell her I said hello. Who? But he's already walking into the sea. The next morning you find a mirror in your room that wasn't there before. It doesn't show your face. It shows Ellen. Not as she was, but as she would be, older, worn, still singing. You place your palm against the glass. She matches it. You feel a hum in your bones. At school, the children have started drawing spirals. You confiscate them. Burn them. They reappear. The chalkboard now resets itself each morning with the same phrase, "She remembers you." You stop correcting it. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on a lesser-known historical tidbit. In 19th century Devon, certain coastal schools were reportedly built with song pits, small chambers beneath the classroom used to trap acoustics. Teachers claimed the pits held the voices of past generations. These were real architectural features. Their original purpose lost. But locals believed singing too loudly in these rooms could wake someone best left dreaming. Your school has a basement. You never noticed it before. One evening, compelled by some gentle dread, you find the trap door beneath the rug in your office. You lift it. Steps lead down, of course. You take a candle, descend. The walls are marked with tally marks. Thousands. Some carved with nails, others with blood. A chair sits in the center, surrounded by mirrors facing inward. A ritual circle, a memory prison. And there on the floor, Ellen's red ribbon. You pick it up. It crumbles into salt. The candle flickers out, and you hear the humming. Not from above, not from within. From behind. You turn. You see your face, smiling. Mirren. You stumble back. Candle long gone, shadows thick as wool. Your face, her face. Mirren's face still smiles from the dark. You want to scream, but your voice is caught in your throat like seaweed. The figure steps forward. Each footfall sounds like a bell, muffled and distant. Her eyes glint not with malice, but with knowing, with memory, with the ache of every name you've ever whispered and every one you've begun to forget. Then in your voice she says, "I am not your reflection. I am your echo." You bolt. Scramble up the steps like a bad dream in fast forward. Slam the trapdoor shut and roll the filing cabinet over it. It won't hold her, but it might hold you in denial for a few more hours. Outside, the sky is the wrong color. A sickly mauve like someone bruised the horizon. People move too slowly, others too fast. Time is unraveling again, threads slipping through memory's fingers. You feel yourself starting to fray. You hurry to the chapel. Your name is gone from the floor. It's replaced by redacted by choice. You don't even remember carving it. You try to speak Ellen's name. It stings your tongue like vinegar and static. You try again, pushing through the burn. Ellen Lucas. A single bell chimes, somewhere above you. Then her voice. Not real, not spoken. Just there in your mind. You remember. That's enough. You fall to your knees, because you know what's coming next. The tide waits for no one, and it always comes for the keeper. Let's step sideways for a moment. Here's a curious historical thread. There's a term, coastal redundancy, used in a few obscure Victorian travelogues. It refers to roles passed down unofficially in seaside towns without ceremony. A watcher, a bell ringer, a name bearer. No records, no plaques. But the job always gets filled. One traveler described a town where the same man greeted him every 30 years, unchanged, unnamed, always waving from the rocks. Back in Gracewick, you see him too. Today he tips his cap. You wave back. The children have stopped speaking. They hum now. All the time. Even in their sleep. The melody laces through the walls of the school like ivy. You tried recording it. Played it backward, slowed it down, sped it up. No matter what you do, it still spells out your name. You try teaching them silence. But silence here isn't empty. It's listening. You ask the girl with the ribbon how to stop it. She just shakes her head. You don't stop a wave, she says. You ride it, or you drown. You tell her you want out. She laughs softly. You are out. You're outside of everything now. She hands you another drawing. It's a spiral again, but this time at its center is a lighthouse. Black windows, red door, and in the highest window a figure. You. You return to the cliffs, to the old lighthouse. Rusted, dead defiant. Inside, the spiral staircase welcomes you back with open steps. You climb. Each level you pass is a memory you forgot you had. Your mother's voice, the smell of your first school book, the song you hummed before you knew it had words. When you reach the top, the bell is waiting. The same one that's always rung 13 times for you and only you. There's a note pinned to its base. When you ring it, she hears you. When she hears you, you forget. When you forget, she remembers. You pocket the note. The bell rope swings slowly as if stirred by wind that doesn't exist. You resist, but your hands close around it, because this is what it means to hold the silence. You pull, once, twice, 13 times, and suddenly everything is still. The village below stops. Not just movement, not just sound. Everything. A bird mid-flight, a curtain mid-sway, a boy mid-step with a ball. Frozen. Only you can move. You step to the window and look down. The ocean below is flat, mirror-like. You see your own reflection in the water, except it's not you. It's Ellen. She looks up, she smiles, and slowly lifts her hand. You feel your own hand rise without effort. Your fingers trace the spiral on the window, and behind you the mirror hums. You turn. Mirren stands there again, but this time she kneels, and whispers, "Thank you," then vanishes into dust. You are alone now, and never alone again. Because the role is yours, the song is yours, the silence is yours. The days begin to fold over each other now. You no longer know how long you've been in Gracewick, or whether you were ever not here. Time behaves like the tide, inevitable, repetitive, and slightly different each time it returns. You write everything down, of course, every spiral, every silence, every impossible sunrise, but the words fade faster now. Even the ink forgets. The townspeople greet you as if they've always known you. They call you Mirren, or Miss, or sometimes just she. They bring you offerings, a basket of rosemary, a child's drawing, a bell with no clapper. The sea leaves things too. Smooth glass stones on your windowsill, messages scrawled in kelp. One morning you wake to find a perfectly preserved photo in your doorway. It's Ellen, young, laughing, holding hands with someone cropped out of frame. You turn it over. There's nothing on the back. You pin it above your bed, because she deserves to be remembered. You stop going into the school. The students find their own way. They no longer need lessons. They're not here to learn. They're here to echo. They hum constantly now, even in their sleep. The same tune, but layered richer, a harmony of generations. You realize you've heard this before. In the spiral chamber beneath the chapel, in the lighthouse stairwell, in your own dreams. The village begins to change. The buildings lean in as if listening. The trees twist their trunks toward the sea. Mirrors reflect things that aren't in the room. People lose their names, but they remember yours, and that's the rule here, isn't it? You carry the names, so they don't have to. That's your function, your curse, your calling. You are the archive. One evening a visitor arrives. You know they're new because they ask questions. What happened to Ellen Lucas? Where's the old teacher? What's with the spiral? You say nothing. Just hand them the journal. They open it. The pages shimmer. Words rearrange. And then they look at you and their eyes widen, because they see. They always do. At first. The next day they return. Silent. Changed. You see them place a stone on the chapel steps. A tribute. You remember when you did the same. You walk the village, each dusk now, your steps soft, your path unwinding in a perfect spiral. People nod. Children stop humming as you pass. Cats blink slowly, knowingly. You stop by the sea. The tide is out, farther than it should be, and you know it's almost time again. You return to the lighthouse one final time. The bell waits rope coiled like a resting snake. But you don't ring it. Not yet. First you go to Ellen's cottage. It's yours now. Always has been. You light the fire. Make tea. Write one last note in the journal. If you found this, remember two things. The spiral leads inward, and forgetting is a kindness. You place it under the floorboards. The journal will find who it needs to. It always does. Outside, the sea returns, rising with slow grace, covering the shore, the chapel steps, the name-carved stones. It touches everything but you. You sit at the window, humming softly. The tune never leaves, but you do. A little more each day, until all that remains of you is a voice in the wind and a name carved in silence. You no longer cast a shadow. That realization comes one morning as you're walking along the cliff path, watching the village stretch and blink beneath a pale, reluctant sun. The birds still glide overhead. The tide still hums. But you, the one they call Mirren now, do not darken the ground. At first it disturbs you, but soon it comforts you. A shadow is tied to time. And you, as you've come to accept, are not. That evening, a boy from the village knocks on your door. He doesn't speak, just holds out a slip of paper with a crayon drawing on it another spiral, but this time it's curled around a lighthouse. In the center, your face. His eyes say he understands more than he should. Or perhaps just enough. You take the picture and hang it beside the others. Your wall is covered now. Spirals, names, dates that don't line up. Photographs of people who were never born. Newspaper clippings that crumble when touched. The boy leaves without a word. The door closes behind him on its own. You brew tea. The cup tastes of brine. Later you visit the chapel again. It's mostly underwater now, the tide swallowing the altar and creeping up the walls. The bells still ring backward at sunset, though no one dares go near. Inside, the names on the floor are changing. You watch as they rearrange themselves. Mirren. Observer. Ellen. Witness. Call. Recorder. You. Keeper. You lean against the pews and let yourself sink into the hush. And for the first time in weeks or decades or cycles, you cry. But the tears aren't yours. They belong to all the voices that have passed through you. The ones you carried, stored, sang. The village has begun to forget you, just as it did the ones before. Your cottage no longer appears on the town map. Children hesitate when they try to say your name. The mirror in the cafe shows only your coat hanging on the chair, never your face. But the journal remains. You find it resting on your doorstep once again, though you don't remember putting it there. New handwriting fills its pages, untidy, rushed. A new observer has arrived. You knew they would. You knew they must. You sit with the journal in your lap, rereading their words. They ask the same questions you once asked. They follow the same path. They're frightened, curious, desperate. You remember how that felt. You add one final note beneath their entry. Don't be afraid of forgetting. Be afraid of silence. Then you close the book and walk toward the sea. You step into the waves fully clothed. The water welcomes you. You don't float. You don't sink. You simply become. A sound rises not from your throat, not from your lungs, but from somewhere deeper. It's the hum, the spiral-made sound. You feel it echo through the tide, through the cliffs, through every stone and window pane in Gracewick. And they remember you, just for a moment, then it fades. And in your place is stillness. A new teacher takes over the school the next day. Her smile is tight. Her suitcase heavy with books and questions. She moves into your cottage, finds the journal under the floorboard, and thus the spiral begins again. She arrives in Gracewick on a grey morning, of course. Rain clings gently to the air like it's second-guessing itself. The wind tastes faintly of metal, and the sky has that bruised, hollow look that suggests something has been watching the town a bit too long. The new teacher, her name is Margaret, though that won't last, has kind eyes and a firm walk. She greets the postmaster, who forgets her name between syllables. She shakes hands with the innkeeper, who asks how long she's lived here. It's always like this. You, what's left of you, watch from the cliff path. She doesn't see you, of course. Not really. But the moment she passes the old tide marker, she shivers. Which means she felt you. You hum gently. Just one note. She'll hear the rest soon enough. At the school, she finds the desks still arranged in spirals. Odd, she mutters, but leaves them. The chalkboard cleans itself each night. The bell rings before she touches it. And in her new cottage, yours of course, the fireplace lights itself at 6:13 p.m. sharp. She finds the journal on the third day, under the floorboard, right where you left it. She flips it open. Her own name is already on the first page. You chuckle softly, soundless in this form. She reads. Her brow furrows. She skips pages, then flips back, then forward again. Her hands begin to tremble. She slams the cover shut, heart pounding. She almost throws it away. Almost. Instead, she reads until dawn. Let's take a detour now, just briefly. In 1924, a folklorist named Letitia Greaves wrote about what she called temporal anchors. She described them as objects or places that hold time in place, like thumbtacks on a map. Gracewick was listed as an anchor. The sea, the chapel, the journal. But the final entry in her notes was simply, the anchor is not a place. It is a person. Margaret teaches her first class. The children are quiet. They always are. One boy, Matthew, asks her, "Will we sing today?" She hesitates. "No, not yet." The children nod, disappointed. But she hums to herself at her desk and doesn't realize she's doing it. That night, the mirror in the inn's hallway shows not her reflection, but the sea. Calm, still, too still. She dreams of staircases and lighthouses and a red ribbon that unwinds forever. On her 7th day, she tries to leave town. The road loops naturally. She ends up back at the school, unsure how. She calls her sister. The number doesn't connect. She tries again. She doesn't remember having a sister. You watch her from the chapel steps as she stares at the Tide journal clutched to her chest. She's humming louder now. The spiral is already forming behind her eyes. You're proud of her, but also sorry, because you know what's coming. You pass the time differently now. You drift through the bell tower, settle into quiet corners of the chapel, whisper names that have almost faded from stone. Ellen, Elias, Col, Greaves, Mirren, you. One evening, Margaret stands in the chapel, tracing the spiral carved into the wall. Her voice echoes faintly. Is anyone there? You don't answer, but you press your presence forward like warmth. She exhales slowly and sings just 4 notes. Perfect. The bell rings 13 times, and you fade just a little more, because she is remembering now. And that means you don't have to anymore. It begins again, not with thunder or prophecy or the crack of fate's whip, but with a single note. Soft, low, carried on the salt-thick wind that snakes through Grayswick like memory through an old diary. Margaret hums as she brushes her hair, as she pours her tea, as she walks the shoreline. She doesn't know why. She hums the way the sea breathes, constant, involuntary. The town hums with her. On the 10th day, the spiral appears chalked on the school steps in a child's hand. By the 14th, mirrors across the village begin fogging over without steam. By the 20th, the names in the chapel change again. Yours is no longer there. Just a faint etching that reads fulfilled. Margaret dreams in layers now. One dream inside another. A hallway full of doors. A chapel submerged. A girl with a red ribbon who whispers, "It's your turn now." She starts writing in the journal, not because she chooses to, but because it's easier than not writing. She sketches the lighthouse. She sketches her own face. She draws a spiral and finds the next morning that it's been carved into her window. She asks the children if they've heard any strange music lately. One replies, "Only when you're near." Another says, "We're ready." Margaret starts to forget little things. The names of towns, what year it is, the sound of her mother's voice. But she remembers Grayswick perfectly, and that's the price. One evening she finds herself standing at the edge of the Tide shoes soaked journal under her arm. She doesn't recall walking here. A figure stands beside her. She doesn't see it, not quite, but she knows. You're still here, watching, waiting. She asks the sea, "Will they remember me?" The waves retreat in answer. She opens the journal and adds the final line. I hear the silence now, and I know what it means. Then she closes it, places it back under the floorboard, the same place it always begins, and ends. Across the village, time settles like dust. The fog thickens. The chapel bell chimes backward. The spiral reforms. Children hum in their sleep. The sea listens, and somewhere beneath it, deep and dreaming, the name Mirren stirs again. But this time it's not a curse. It's a call, and someone always answers. So now the tide is out. The bells are quiet. The journal rests closed once again beneath the floorboards, waiting for the next set of eyes, the next name to take root. Margaret walks the cliff path at dusk, the same one you once walked, though she doesn't remember you now. Not exactly. But when the wind shifts just so, and the light catches the edge of a mirror, sometimes she pauses, as if listening for a voice she can't name. Grayswick sleeps. The chapel hums softly to itself. Spirals etched into its bones. The school children sing without words. The sea breathes slow and patient, holding stories in its salt-stung arms, and somewhere perhaps on a windowsill or in a mirror or in the moment just before sleep you linger, not a ghost, Not a curse. Just a memory. A name someone once whispered. A song someone still hums. Tonight let all of that fade. Let the salt leave your skin. Let the spirals uncurl into nothing but waves. Let the bells chime backward and carry your thoughts away like driftwood on the tide. You are no longer the observer. Not now, not here. Just a listener. Just a dreamer. Just a voice slowly quieting. And as your breath settles and the silence softens around you, remember, you don't need to hold the story anymore. Someone else will. They always do. Good night. Sleep well. You're safe now. End of script. Sweet dreams.